Do you think you could sit up?
I can? Uh-huh.
Perfect. All right, great.
We good?
Yeah. So, what is your name and spell it out?
Michael Rosbash. You want Michael spelled as well?
No, it's...
That's standard spelling. Rosbash.
So, what originally got you interested in science? Please repeat the question in your answer.
What originally got me interested in science? So I was an indifferent student at the same school you go to. Only it was called Newton High School then, because only my senior class was divided into North and South. So it was, and it didn't change its name. North didn't become North for another 5 to 10 years. So it was Newton High School. And I was a fairly indifferent student, but science came very easily to me, math especially. So since I was an indifferent student, I did the stuff that came easily, so I didn't have to work very hard. English and history and so forth being more challenging, requiring more effort. And so I went to a school that specialized in, a college that specialized in science, Caltech. And I went originally to study math, and there I got interested in biology. Actually, I was a chemistry major, but I got interested in biological chemistry, mostly from working in a lab one summer and then channeling the professor who I worked for, more or less deciding that he had a great life and it might be worthwhile trying to do the same kind of thing.
Great.
It was also the heyday of the genetic code was being cracked. So it was a very exciting time in biology, and that was also part of it.
What was winning the Nobel Prize like?
What was it like? So it was many things at once. It was a bit unreal.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. What was winning the Nobel Prize like? It was a bit unreal. It still is. It's just been 1 month or 5 weeks. It's a little overwhelming. It's a great honor. It's overwhelming because there's lots of little doodads, lots of activities, both present and future, that have to be planned and that are involved. And so my life got much more complicated, people like you interviewing me. So I've been busy with lots of stuff and haven't really quite settled into the realization that I've actually won this prize. And I suspect this week in Stockholm, 10 days in Stockholm, will change my mind and make it real.
Great. So what have you been studying in science, particularly? And you can go for as long as you want.
Right. So what have I been studying in science? So I've changed fields a couple of times in the course of my career. So the one constant is I've always been interested in nucleic acids. I studied RNA metabolism as a graduate student at MIT. I continued with work on gene expression as a postdoc in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I continued that kind of work when I came to Brandeis as an assistant professor now, 43 years ago. And so I've been doing that more or less continuously, changing organisms, changing emphasis, but always being interested in nucleic acids and gene expression. And then about 8 years after I got to Brandeis, I started this collaboration on circadian rhythms, on biological clocks, with my friend and colleague Jeff Hall, who was just exactly my age, and we had come to Brandeis at the same time, came from very different disciplines, knew different kinds of things. And so we got together to try to work on this problem together, myself from a molecular standpoint, or at least that's where my training was from, and Jeff was more of a geneticist and a neuroscientist. And that's how we hooked up together. So to some extent, it was a labor that was born out of a friendship more than out of any other particular scientific motivation. I mean, we were both interested in this problem, and it seemed like an exciting thing to try to do. This is the very beginning of the studies. And so and I've been studying circadian rhythms for this entire 35 years, including from a nucleic acid standpoint, which is the continuation of my longstanding interest. And most recently have focused on the neuroscience aspect of the problem, that is the neurons in the brain of the fruit fly that control circadian rhythms.
So what are circadian rhythms?
So circadian rhythms are daily oscillations that take place in all animals, many organisms, most organisms. It comes from the Latin circadia, or about a day. And it is the timekeeper that keeps us in sync with the